Hello and welcome to Backpage Pass Game Week 32. There's only 6 left, Mark.
6? I remembered Game Week 1 like it was yesterday, or like it was 6 months ago.
6. Ooh, 6. 6 is the magic number for today. It's just me and Mark.
Owen's chair isn't even in the room.
It's not even in the room. He knows what he did. He
Went to training.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to review Game Week 32 and look ahead to Game Week 33. And we're going to start by going to the Reading 0 Southampton 2 game. Good night, Reading, right?
Didn't I say Southampton will win that game?
Maybe.
Didn't Gaston Ramirez make a dreadful mistake in that game?
Did he?
Yeah. I think he missed an easy chance.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's,
I remember watching and thinking, yes, score one for the Mark.
I actually remember watching and think Mark's going to bring this up. Now I remember it, yeah.
And didn't J. Rodriguez play quite well?
I didn't say he wasn't playing well. I said he's
having a good season there.
The last few weeks, he's coming good. And he proved both of us right. No, wait.
It proved me half right at least, and you fully right.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
At most.
At
fully
most.
right at most.
Yeah.
Half right at least.
There's a grey area somewhere.
So, yeah, Reading are down, I think.
Yep. And Rodriguez's goal was a bit controversial. What did you think of? It was a bit of a lunge, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think it was controversial at the time.
Neither did I. But when I saw the replays, I was like, oh, well.
Even if, Reading are at home in that game, crunch game.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're talking about controversies, clutching the straws really.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have any control of that game and no claim to any points from it. I thought the victory was the right result for Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to know with Reading because not that long ago,
they got a little mini revival.
They had a handle on survival, and then it's just like that, like a click of the fingers, which I can't do, like that. It just kind of went away from them. So you wonder what the cause of that was. Maybe they just don't have the squad.
Probably. Norwich 2, Swansea 2. Norwich just refusing to get sucked back into the relegation battle. It's just like, okay, we're going to get a point and we're just going to grind this out.
Yeah. I think Norwich is too good to stay up anyway. There's quite a few teams that are in that battle for that last relegation spot.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll talk about that more, but
Norwich are completely out anyway. But
they're not out, but I think not too many people will be betting on them to go down. But they are definitely one of the teams that will be, I would imagine, will be more fearful of it next season. They'll definitely have to bring in players in the summer. Grant Holt, I think, in the summer last summer, he was talking about leaving. There was a whole kind of transfer request thing, and I don't think has had the same impact this year as he did last year.
They tried to get Hooper, and I'd imagine they're going to land him good during the summer. Yeah,
I think Kevin Doyle might go to Celtic from Wolves. So, yeah, Hooper could go there, but I think they definitely do need to strengthen that squad. They have enough at the moment, but you have to move forwards or else you move backwards. There's no staying still.
And for Swansea, they didn't lose, and Michu's still going strong. Yeah, he's positive for them.
I don't know. He has kind of committed to next season with Swansea, which is admirable. But surely, he's looking around thinking, I could do better than this. No disrespect to Swansea.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll be in the Europa League. And, baby steps.
Baby steps, but we know what the Europa League does to squads. For example, at the start of the season, I thought Newcastle had a chance of fourth, and I boldly predicted fourth based on how they finished the previous season, last season, and the Europa League has them in a false position because I don't think.
But Arse does his hamstring against Bordeaux.
Yeah, but I know they've had injuries, but they still do have a good first 11, you would say, and options off the bench when all their players are fit. So, Swansea could be in a similar position next season. I'm sure Michu doesn't want to be involved in relegation scraps. I think a team like Arsenal could go for him in the summer. But in terms of Swansea themselves, I think they're just taking down the clock.
And Stoke 1, Aston Villa 3. I was worried when Stoke levelled, but they conspired to throw it away, which made me happy.
Yeah, big win for Villa because in recent weeks, they've kind of been playing decent football. I think I said last week,
but without getting the result,
without getting the points. So at least there's some positives there. Whereas Reading aren't playing well, not getting the points. Villa are showing some potential, but up until the last week weren't really picking up the points. But that's a big win because A, it's brought another team down into the scrap, further down into scrap, and B, gives confidence going forward and strengthens their position of staying up. And there's a good chance they will stay up now, I think.
Yeah, especially with Stoke in trouble and their fans looking visibly frustrated at the lack of ideas.
Yeah, I think a lot of empty seats towards the end of that game. Apparently, a lot of phone-ins in England and things like that after the games are Stoke fans calling in and hammering Pulis. Do you blame Pulis for the whole Stoke ugly football thing, or do you think he's a guy that got them up and they'd be nowhere without him? Or
they probably wouldn't be in the Premier League without him, but it is his fault that they play ugly football, and he's had time to adapt as well. I mean, you get up playing ugly football. Reading did it. Other teams have done it. But there's still a chance for your manager to grow and adapt, and he hasn't bothered.
So you would blame him for? You think it would be time for Stoke to?
Like they've played in Europe,
managers?
He should really be looking at himself and kind of thinking, well, why haven't we got another option other than a little bit long to Crouch or Jones or Walters?
Yeah, I actually was quite interested. I saw Gary Neville talking about them on the Monday on Football, and he had a stat now. I can't quite remember all the figures, but it's basically, he said that Stoke at Christmas time, he was quoted as saying Stoke were one of the best defensive units in the league. They conceded something like 12 goals in their first 19 games or something like that, and in the games since up till this point they've conceded about 26 goals, and they were kind of joking that it was the Gary Neville curse. Yeah, because now he said they were the best defensive, and now they're one of the worst. And it's really been that they're not Stoke aren't being Stoke as much anymore.
Well, they stopped scoring as well because it's 2 goals in 6 games. So
what I mean is like they're still Stoke attacking wise, but they're not the dogged rock physical hitting people, as much as they once were. It's not as effective as it once was anyway.
I think referees as well have adapted to them as well, and they were getting hammered for they could. After the Fellaini thing, they went, well, Stoke do this to other teams. They're always pulling out of players and they're doing things, and they started getting punished and giving away free kicks for things that they hadn't been punished for before. So that may have had an influence as well.
At the same time, it's not that long ago, at the start of the season, if that fixture was played in, September, October, you wouldn't have said Villa would have. Not that Villa wouldn't have gone to the Britannia and won, but they certainly wouldn't go there and score 3 goals.
Yeah. No, I thought you would think Stoke would beat Villa at home very comfortably. Yeah. At the start of the season, you would have thought that anyway. Yeah. West Brom 1, Arsenal 2. Maybe if Rosicky and Gervinho had been available all season, they'd be in a better position. Or is it just their form hasn't been there?
I don't really know if I rate either of those players because
they played very well in this game, though.
I know, but what I'm saying is they don't do it
and
enough.
The previous game.
Okay, John. But in case I'm putting, it's been said about Rosicky that when he's got the contract offer on the table, he'll play better, and then when he's comfortable, goes back into himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been shown. He's doing very well the last couple of games with Trevino, but I don't think he can base a whole big campaign on those guys.
I think he's just never fit, and he's there at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I think these are bit part players. I don't think they're the core that are going to get you in the top 4.
I know Shane Long won the penalty, but I couldn't believe it when I saw that Lukaku wasn't starting.
Yeah, it's a bit odd, but there wasn't any. Are you sure there wasn't any fitness issues or?
No, I think it was just a case of we'll have Shane run them silly, and then we'll bring on Lukaku and he'll score. Because the game did change when he came on.
But just Lukaku's physicality, Arsenal, they don't like it up them, John. I think
the Arse, no.
No, the Arsenal don't like it up them.
Okay. Moving on. The Sunday, Liverpool 0, West Ham 0, and there was no real threat without Big Andy, and Liverpool looked good. They probably should have won.
Yeah, well, even without, before going into that game, you'd think Liverpool should win that game. But that's quite typical of Liverpool the last couple of seasons. 0-0 draws at home, not dropping points at home. If they could really, I know they are making improvements under Brendan Rodgers, but if they can kick off from that next season, they should be expected, I think, to be in the top 4 race.
Mm-hmm.
saw Rodgers talking today that he's kind of hoping that they don't get Europa League next season. That could be a blessing.
Yeah, now he is. They're almost definitely out of it anyway.
Yeah, because he said that they can make a strong push for the league. I think that's a bit out of their range. But
well, he's an optimist. I'll give him that.
But fourth, I don't think is out of their range. If they weren't playing in the Europe and they got real consistency going in the league,
and hold on to Suarez, who'll probably leave because he wants to play Champions League football.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of ifs there, but you have to set your goals. But it's results like that they have to cut out though next season.
And there were 2 James Tompkins based penalty shouts. I thought the one where he was fouled was more of a penalty.
Yes.
There was one he kind of got tripped, I think, in the box, but it was one of those you haven't seen them given, but they are technically fouls. And then there was another one where he got to the ball ahead of Gerrard and he just got a tiny little touch.
Well, John, as a United fan, I know you don't get penalties at Anfield.
Yeah. As a United fan, you don't want to go talk about penalties as a United fan. Tottenham 2, Everton 2. Bale was missing. I think Lennon was a big miss too, and Fellaini suspended again. So
yeah, frustrating. The most frustrating one was Lennon, as I threw him into my fantasy team when he had a nice kind of blue eye button,
Yep.
And indicating that he's nice and healthy, and then went back to check the points and saw that it had magically turned to a red eye, indicating that he was injured.
It was during the Europa League game he went off.
Well, they didn't update it when I bought him in. I knew he went off, but I didn't, because I watched that match, but I didn't. I thought it obviously wasn't an issue. Do we know how long Bale is out for?
There was talk of end the season.
No,
it's 2 weeks. Sorry.
Because AVB made a quite strange comment saying that there's not much in his ankle to be damaged. He doesn't really have ankle ligaments, which, how does he run around at that pace without ankle ligaments?
I don't know.
B, why would you say that? Because Real Madrid are thinking, what? How about we offer 6 million instead of 60 million? But yeah, Spurs are in a dangerous position in terms of bottling it.
Yeah.
You
said it a few weeks ago, I was like, nah. But yeah. But without Bale, that's not bottling it, that's losing Bale.
Well, it's AVB has prioritised the Europa League, and because he's been playing all the big players in the recent matches and that, and it looks like it could be costing him the Champions League. He hasn't rested Bale really much at all this season.
I think he's one of those players that doesn't need much of a rest either, though.
Yeah, well, he played in a game. I know they didn't play well against Basel, and they were lucky to get the draw. But if Bale doesn't play that match, he could be fit for the rest of the season and help them get fourth. Not that they won't, but it's looking like it could be Chelsea 3, Arsenal 4th, Spurs 5th. And really, I wonder. It's interesting to see what happens to Villas-Boas then.
No, well, they'll stay on. They won't get rid of finish 5th.
But in terms of transfer budgets, all that kind of thing, how do they go about that? Because really they got rid of Redknapp for finishing 4th.
Mm-hmm.
The new guy.
Well, I don't think that was
Champions League spots the whole way.
I don't think that was the whole reason behind the Redknapp thing.
You think there was more to do the England job?
I think he was visibly looking for the England job, and then results went off after he did get the England job, and it was a case of his results went so downhill without the excuse of Bale and Lennon being injured.
Yeah,
they just went off. He just completely seemed to lose interest, and it was a case of his contract was coming up, and he was asking for a lot of money, and for a long-term contract, and there's a lot of doubt about it.
Yeah,
and AVB was available.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit like the Dublin footballers, all the kind of it got to a point where you get into the big crucial stages of the season, and everybody was kind of expecting them to blow it, and it's kind of the same as Tottenham. Like they're in the pole position. It's all in your hands, but there's still a doubt, and I'd say it's in the players' heads as well. They must be thinking, do we have what it takes to get over the line? And right now, it's not really looking like they do. But then again, the Dublin footballers bound away, so maybe Tottenham will too.
Kevin Morales got another goal, so now he's less than $1 million a goal. How many goals does RVP have?
Van Persie?
Yeah.
He's 19 league goals, but I think he's about 26 overall.
Well, there we go.
He's less than $1 million a goal.
No, he's not. It's in the league.
Yeah, but overall.
a draw isn't a great result for either team, is it?
Well, it's not bad for Everton, but it's because Everton went.
West
but
Brom
it's-
lost.
It's a poor result for Tottenham, especially after the last home game was a defeat to Fulham.
No, it's away to Everton, isn't it?
I know. I just think it's you have to win.
Okay.
Win.
Chelsea 2, Sunderland 1. I remember hearing Chelsea would hammer Sunderland.
Yeah.
Sunderland had a lot of chances in the first half, but the game, as the game wore on, Chelsea kind of turned the screw. Did Di Canio spook them into running themselves stupid too early?
How do you mean spook them?
Well, you know what he does. He
but-
goes in and just shouts at people,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Well, I think they got the lead, but it's not the first time a small team has gone to a big team and got the lead. Not a small team, but a smaller team has got the lead. But that's the difference. I mean, for Chelsea, they know that they're in a battle for top four, so it's pressure on both teams. Sunderland trying to stay up, Chelsea trying to get the top four. So Chelsea are home. They have enough quality to come back. Sunderland don't have the quality. They're missing their talisman forward. I don't even think. I think the Spurs or the Sunderland players are looking at the kind of thinking, "Who is this raving lunatic?"
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe it did have an impact. Maybe Martin O'Neill's team wouldn't have got the lead. It's impossible to know. But even when Sunderland were ahead, we were thinking Chelsea were still going to come back and win that game. It is a case of turning the screw, as you say.
Yeah. Sunderland played a 4-4-1-1 with Wickham as a number 9. It's hardly an advance on O'Neill's tactics.
Yeah, it was interesting though to see that because Graham was the one who suffered. So I wonder if the kind of looking at him thinking, here's the new signing that could have been one of the reasons O'Neill went. He hasn't scored any goals. He's not my player. He's not my new signing, so he's out of the team.
Well, Di Canio comes in without that pressure of having to play.
Yeah, with the players the new players that came in. So that's an interesting one to see how that develops. I was kind of looking forward to seeing Graham playing for Sunderland against Newcastle, just to see what the stick would be like. But I don't think that's going to happen now.
No, be hilarious. Speaking of Newcastle 1, Fulham 0. Newcastle were out on their feet by the end, thanks to the Benfica game, I would post. But they got the winner.
Yeah, in the dying.
90+4, I think it was.
But I did say you were going to win that match.
You did.
And they did.
They did.
So that's big 3 points.
It was great to see Kaboy, who had been on his haunches, just doubled over in pain with his hamstrings or whatever it was.
Yeah, great to see that there, John.
And then he takes the shot, and it wasn't a great shot, and Cisse just flicked it up and boom.
And one of the more memorable celebrations.
Yeah.
Running behind the boards into the crowd.
And Pardew's shirt.
Oh, yeah, that was a bit of a...
Used to see him get shirty with the officials is what I'm used to.
It's a bit weird though seeing his
belly
just kind of there.
How are you lads? QPR 1, Wigan 1, which was on at 4:10 for some reason, and Zamora sent off early. Ain't that a kick in the head? Remy
Yes.
could have gone too.
Yeah, I know get over it, but it's nice to see somebody else getting sent off.
No, I know, but you kick someone in the head.
That was way worse though.
Yeah, I know. You can argue. There was an argument about than anything.
Yeah, that was way worse.
Mm-hmm.
But what is he doing? But this is just QPR. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just overpaid idiots.
If Redknapp has any sense, he doesn't play again this season. Can't depend on him.
Well, he's barred for at least half the rest of the season.
Yeah, you know what I mean. He should be, I'd say, there's three games suspended, but the remaining 3, he doesn't play because you can't trust him. But it's a bit like Cisse last season when they're trying to stay up, and he was getting reds as well. He reds, suspended for 3 games, comes in, scores. Next game, red, suspended for 3 games, comes back in and scores. But I don't know. I can't. If you can't rely on him, you don't play him.
But there's not a whole lot of players he can rely on. If you look at Rapt for Maloney's free kick, jumps up and then gets out of the way.
Samir Nasri.
Just I'm in the way. No, I'm not.
Yeah, that was just kind of cowardice in that whole wall that they were kind of please.
None of them jumped though. He was the only one to jump.
But they were thinking, that thing when you're in work and somebody gives you something you don't want to do, and your initial thing is kind of I just want this to go away. But then you end up having to do it.
Yeah.
But the wall, we're kind of thinking, wouldn't it be sweet if this just kind of went over the wall and we just
we'll just assume
if we got through it somehow. But yeah, it was just there was no courage there. There was no kind of let's take one in the chops and get the 3 points.
And Loic Remy's goal though, that was I still can't get my head around what happened.
Side foot into at speed into the top corner
from 30 yards out. Just
pass it in.
Impossible. And the pace and amazing.
Glorious goal. But I think we already knew. We already said QPR down, but it's certainly haven't helped themselves with that result.
And
they're running out of chances, like 6-pointer games, to bring themselves back into it.
I think they're done.
Yeah,
I think that was it. Man United 1, Man City 2. Fantastic goal by Aguero.
Fantastic facial expressions by Phil Jones. You see that?
No.
There's a photograph of Aguero just as he's kind of striking the ball, and Jones is lunging to block it, and Jones's face was like this.
His face is always kind of crooked. His jaw doesn't seem to link up properly. He's always got this slack jaw.
I'm telling you, there's things on kind of Facebook and blog and all. Just type in Phil Jones funny face, and you will get a collage of Phil Jones in different matches, doing this really weird, distorted faces as he tries to block or pass or whatever, or head the ball.
He doesn't help himself with his haircut either.
No, he doesn't. But overall, I thought he had quite a good game.
He did. He had a very good game, except
a guy that is kind of pushed around the team, injured for a while. He hasn't really stamped down a position.
And I wouldn't even totally blame him for the goal, the Aguero goal. Gary Neville said afterwards, Evra should have been tucked in.
It was more if Aguero ran in front of the whole back four. He was kind of passed on from one defender to the other, and then kind of cut around and shot. You can't blame De Gea. It was a great shot.
Amazing balance.
Yeah. Thought it was quite a good game overall. But having said that, though, United played quite poorly. Since the Real Madrid defeat, they haven't really recovered from that, and kind of reminds me a bit like remember when Chelsea were knocked out by Barcelona in that game where all the penalties weren't given by the Norwegian referee, and there was a whole furore afterwards.
Drogba went mad.
Yeah,
the red.
As far as I remember, after that, I think Chelsea won the FA Cup that year because Hiddink was the coach. But I think that affected the rest of their season as well. And I think that's kind of what happened. There's been a whole furore and feeling sorry for ourselves, and we should be in the playing Galatasaray and all this. It's taken the performances post Real Madrid have been poor. 2 1-0 wins, I think, against Reading and Sunderland. Been knocked out of the FA Cup. Dropped a 2-goal lead against Chelsea in the FA Cup. The Man City game was the last really big game by right. I mean, if we start losing games in the leagues, then the games against Arsenal and Chelsea become big games. But that was the last kind of one for the fans, and I didn't think the performance was up to scratch really.
Giggs' back heel for the first goal. What was that all about?
That's not really what Ryan Giggs is about. It's just they're not really at it the same way they were. I think we peaked quite early in the season. Like Ferguson tries to peak around Christmas and sustain that by kind of going big game to big game in the close season, but we kind of peaked, and then seeing the Real Madrid kind of game seemed to throw us off. No, it wasn't. I thought it was a good game, but it wasn't a United Man United performance. Like Ashley Young was poor; he wasn't really in the game. Welbeck I thought was reasonably okay, but even when Valencia came on, wasn't really up to much. Van Persie was quiet. I know Rooney was coming back from injury, but he wasn't really himself. It was a game of not that many chances, but I thought it was quite a lively game overall.
I didn't think City were great. Gary Neville seemed to think that Tevez was the driving force behind them, ironically enough.
Should be banned from that, though.
But I thought he looked overweight.
Maybe, I don't know. Did you see the picture of him doing community service?
No.
It's pretty funny. Picking up shit. It's like a picture of taken through like railings of of a fence, and he's just kind of picking up stuff. And
has he got one of those extendable claw?
I don't think so. I think he's kind of like holding a bag. I saw it earlier on, but it's kind of like someone's gone, Carlos, and he turns around and they take the picture of it's brilliant.
Probably shouldn't be laughing at it.
Well, it's his own fault.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, poor result for United, but that result, if there was any doubt, I think should keep Mancini in the job.
Do you reckon?
I think he should. Do you think he's going to
blaming the lack of transfer, and I think he has a point.
He does, yeah. If they win the FA Cup, 3 trophies in 3 years is not bad.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would say he'll stay there.
Well, we'll stay here, but you have a second or two to take a break.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hello and welcome back to Backpage Pass. We're going to look ahead to game week 33 now, starting with Arsenal versus Norwich. And Arsenal have won 6 of their last 7. They're due a cock-up, aren't they?
They don't really do that, those kind of, at this stage of the season, when everyone kind of says...
There's always one in the last few weeks. I can remember Bolton and Middlesbrough.
Yeah, but what I mean is that people kind of say, they're Arsenal, that they're not playing for any trophies. They're down for top 4, and then they kind of gain momentum and finish the season quite well. Mm-hmm. So no, I think they'll win. Maybe they are due a cock up, but not home to Norwich.
I'd expect Norwich to be a bit nervy.
I just kind of expect Arsenal to go through them though. I think a couple of goals in the difference there for Arsenal.
Aston Villa versus Fulham. Say what you want about 6-pointers. You should aim to beat the teams that have nothing to play for, which is what Newcastle did when they played Fulham.
That's exactly it. Although the psychology is interesting because Fulham have nothing to play for, so are they going to be as up for it? But Villa need the points, so are they going to have their wits about them to take the initiative and get the points? Although they had the initiative last week to win away at Stoke, so that suggests they do. So Villa at home, you go for an hour win for Villa there.
Mm-hmm. And Everton versus QPR. Wouldn't be surprised if Everton cocked this up. You
think?
Yeah.
Like by the odd Lark Remy goal.
Yeah, and Lark Remy's on brilliant for it. Like you were saying, Zamora's like CC. I think Remy's been a lot like CC last season, and then he's scoring important goals at important times.
But he's not getting sent off though.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's a difference.
Yeah. I don't know. They need to start winning games, so they need to be up for every game. But I just wouldn't write Everton off in that game.
And what about Reading versus Liverpool? Again, Liverpool should win this comfortably, but I just have this little nagging down.
Similar game almost to Liverpool against Southampton, where they got smashed there. But again, you do have to I don't fancy Reading keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool. So, and how many goals do you think they're going to score against Liverpool? So I don't know, maybe a 2-1 Liverpool there, I think.
So sorry, I've just been distracted by the fact that if I put my lips up to the microphone, it makes a buzzing noise.
How about my microphone?
No, not hearing it. Sorry, sorry, Mark. Moving on, Southampton versus West Ham. Southampton generally press high and force their opponents to hoof it long with hopeless balls, but that's kind of plan A for West Ham.
Hopeless balls.
Well, not hopeless. They're Andy Carroll, so no hope is ever
Joey
lost.
O'Brien, close your eyes and kick the thing.
Hope it finds its way to Andy.
Yeah. Well, Andy coming back in, or Andy as you call him coming back in, is already a plus there for West Ham. Mm-hmm. Is this kind of like a loser kind of maybe goes back into the relegation?
No.
You think both
are safe? We're at 10th and 11th, I think, as we talk. Yeah,
but you kind of just feel that...
And they're with 36, 37 points.
Yeah, but the team that... Yeah, I suppose. I just kind of think... I think there's a kind of group of them that are... I don't think either are going to go down or anything, but might prolong it for the pain for a couple of weeks for them, for the loser.
The Newcastle Norwich kind of zone of,
yeah,
lose a game, you could be
Although
down.
I don't think they're going to go down either, but,
no.
But you just... the pain of not knowing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a Southampton win there because I think they're playing quite well in recent weeks.
They have been. I think maybe it's the same. I think Andy Carroll will score, but...
Yeah, but you always think that. And the stats really don't back it
up. Newcastle versus Sunderland on the Sunday.
Looking forward to this one.
Very early kickoff. It's 12 o'clock for people who plan to watch it on the TV.
So Newcastle fans are basically just going to start drinking at 5.
Yeah.
They're not even going home from Saturday night.
I mean, that's why they have it on so early, to stop people turning up drunk.
Yeah.
But, it's a bit counterproductive. Newcastle likely to be knackered for the second leg against Benfica. I'd say Canio will send his team out to harry and harangue them. But
there's a headline in one of the papers today that the kind of message from the county was like, we're at war to the players, so this is going to be a war for them.
he should avoid mentioning anything associated with fascism.
You know, Newcastle fans have been threatened with if they start making those salutes, they will be arrested.
Good.
Which to me, I was like, oh yeah, they could taunt them with that.
There's nobody thought of that before.
Yeah, so I wonder if the police had said that, would they have taunted him with it? Probably they would. Maybe they would.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, if I'm a Newcastle fan, thank you, Mr. Policeman. You can't arrest all of us.
We're all just waving.
Yeah. If
Very slowly.
Like if I'm presented in court with a photograph still of me doing a fascist salute, me, the Newcastle fan,
a Roman salute,
the fictional Roman / fascist salute, I can just say I was waving at somebody. This picture is, the setup.
I was
mid-wave.
I'm looking for my friend Kyle. He's this high.
Yeah. I was describing what I think a baby elephant is like when it's born.
But yay high.
That's what I was doing, and you can't prove otherwise. So how are they going to arrest them? I don't know. But back to the game, I strongly think that Newcastle are going to win that, and Sunderland are going to be in big trouble after that.
Yeah, Sunderland don't win at St James's Park.
And I really, really didn't see this coming like a few weeks ago with Sunderland. I knew they weren't doing much, but I didn't think they were going to be.
Yeah, I never thought they'd. I remember earlier in the season when they had that patch where they just didn't have a shot on goal for about 4 games. I was like, oh, they could be in trouble. Yeah. They came out of that at the back end of it.
I don't. It just kind of went under the radar until recently, where they're
Villa started doing good again, and everybody just kind of
But yeah, I think Newcastle are going to win that. I think it could be a couple of goals in it for Newcastle, and a really demoralising defeat, and it'll be difficult to pick Sunderland up from there. But if they do find a way to win that, I think that's the springboard for them.
Yeah, I really don't want them.
Yeah,
springboard.
Would you like to see them go down?
Oh, I do enjoy the game every year.
Yeah,
I'd rather them be in the same league and do worse than us.
Yeah,
but then again,
it'd be funny to see them go down. They laughed at us when we went down.
Chelsea were meant to play Tottenham, but that's been postponed due to the FA Cup. So, the 2:00 kickoff is Stoke versus Man United. United come close to finishing the league off.
Yeah, I just at the moment we need a kick in the ass of some type, because it's in the last couple of years, United don't necessarily win well there. Think of the Hernandez back header and goals like that, a scrappy enough goals.
But just
I know Stoke
traditionally defend well.
Huh? Yeah. So, but United aren't playing well at the moment, so it's a hard one to know. I always back my own team to win, but we do need a kick in the ass to actually get over the line with this league.
But would the City loss be that kick?
No, because the Real Madrid or the Chelsea loss should have been the kick and say, cap yourselves on. We got a big game against Man City coming up, and it wasn't. Just on the United as well, there's talk today, or the odds have been slashed of Falcao coming to
Manchester
to United from Atletico Madrid. Guillem Balaguer, the Spanish journalist, has confirmed, or he has reported, that United, similar to when we bought David De Gea, have put down a deposit on Falcao, and that has actually happened, and the odds of Falcao going to United have been slashed. But what I'm thinking is, you can't really slash the odds of Falcao going to United without suspending betting on Wayne Rooney leaving United in the summer.
Yeah, it has to happen.
Because if you think about it, not like he's a great player and I'd love to see him at my club like everybody else will, but how do you fit? Like, I'm thinking about players like Kagawa. How do you do Van Persie and Falcao make a front two together? Do they? And how does Kagawa play in behind him? I don't.
Well, you can't have a front three of Falcao, Van Persie, and Rooney.
Yeah,
that just won't work at all.
I don't know if it will work. But
whereas Kagawa, you can get stick him on the left.
Apparently, the deal is Hernandez goes as part of a swap.
Hernandez,
but a couple, even just last week, Ferguson said there's no chance Hernandez is going anywhere. So it's hard to know what to believe. But also, Falcao is owned by
Oh, it's a third party,
Third
which is
party.
illegal in the Premier League.
But yeah, United would have to buy
Buy
entirely.
the other half of them.
But investors do not give a toss if Javier Hernandez goes to Atletico Madrid. So they'll want cash. Well, apparently you're kind of talking, I think, 50 million euros plus Hernandez for Falcao.
Sounds about right.
But he's 27, and United don't really. I know Van Persie, but before that it was a while since they spent money on a player of that age, and to spend that much on a player of that age, I'm still a bit skeptical. Even though I do tend to believe most everything that Balaguer says, because he knows everything about Spanish football and Spanish football.
Do you think people would stop telling them stuff?
Yeah, you would. But there's got to be a kind of a narc at every football club, you think. Yeah. But sometimes these narcs, almost like they have kind of invisibility powers. Like when they can tell you exactly what happened in a meeting between the president and Cristiano Ronaldo in a room that had two people in it. And he can tell you everything that was said in it. But yeah, it would be interesting to see. Like, it would be a big signing, and it'll be the opposite of what Man City did when they won the league. They didn't go for the marquee signing, so maybe Ferguson's kind of saying that's what we need to do. I don't know, but tough one to figure out how that would all work.
And back to the Stoke game. You said Kago earlier. I expect Kago to play and to just rip them to pieces.
You think so?
I think he's going to be the key player if he plays. Every time I've expected him to start, though, he has to start. So I don't know what's going on.
It's very difficult to second guess Ferguson. He pulls team sheets out of the air sometimes, and you read it. Like, I watch games sometimes, and you think, I don't know about that team sheet. And then the players that you don't expect to play well are the best players on the pitch.
Welbeck scores against Real Madrid.
Yeah. I was reading that team sheet and thinking, what? But yeah, completely justified. He was one of the best players, if not the best United player that night. But I would expect Kago to play that game. He didn't play against City, so I think he'll play that game because Giggs will drop out. So
yeah, but it's a different position.
Yeah, I know.
Is Cleverly fit again?
I think so.
He should be playing.
But I don't know. But I think Stoke will get a lot of players behind the ball, so it makes it difficult for Kago to operate. But
that's where he comes into his own, where he's the player who can unlock those.
I know, but it is difficult to operate when there's two backs of four. But again, I'll back my team to win that one.
Well, we'll be back because you said you're going to back.
Yeah,
we'll be.
And my back is a bit itchy at the moment.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm going to scratch my back.
Mine's a bit hairy, but I'm not going to shave it because we're recording. But
we'll
be back recording next week. In the meantime, you should like us on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to write for once when it wasn't written down. And check out the fancy thing. Yeah. How am I doing?
I'm doing shocking.
I haven't logged on in a while. How am I doing?
I haven't looked at our table in a while because I look at the kind of the biggest table that I'm involved with, and I'm going from Champions League hopeful to relegation threatened. So I just can't stem the tide. My good players that I'm bringing in are just not performing at all.
I blame Aaron Lennon. Okay, well, we'll talk to you next week. Ooh, paranoia. Is that a song?
Could be. You can make it a song.
Yeah, well, we'll make it a song. Ooh, paranoia.
Where?